Lawyers have read it. At what point, when working for a defendant, did you realize, my client is a monster? I'm on the other side, but I've got a defendant who went to prison for starving 3 adopted children to the point that they needed weeks of hospitalization, then got out of prison and married a guy with children so that she could start starving them. 2. Listening to her interview where she attempts to justify what she did to both sets of kids disturbed me more than any of the murder cases I've worked on. What was her justification? She did nothing wrong, she was just trying to help them be healthy and beautiful. She felt bad for the first set of kids because they needed her, etc. It wasn't my case, but I've seen the pictures. The first set of kids looked like Holocaust survivors. They were 4 to 5 and she had them completely brainwashed to think only she would ever love them. Criminal defense lawyer. I can name a few instances where I was just absolutely disgusted with my client. Caveat, these are mostly years ago when I was taking just any old case. I most practice white collar and federal now. 1. I won a DUI case because the government messed up on something right before trial was to begin. My client gives me a hug and completely reeks of alcohol. He has driven to court. I took his keys and called his mother. 2. Client who was accused of molesting a 12-year-old. He was mid-40s at the time and I had to shut him down real quick when he tried to tell me how the 12-year-old was coming on to him. 3. I represented a woman for a grand theft charge. Left her in my office to get some things copied before she left. After she left, I realized my sunglasses and car keys were stolen. I tracked her down in the lobby and told her I was not going to represent her anymore, and I would call the police if she didn't empty her pockets in front of me and give me my things. 4. I had a client who was released after 25 years in prison for murder, and then the same day he beats up his prospective new landlord. He ended up getting another 10 years. He was unrepentant and laughed about how he hit the guy so hard his eyeball popped out. I thought, this guy deserves to be in prison. Took the case to trial anyway and shocker, lost and he got 10, the max. 5. Client who pretended to be a doctor so he could sell steroids. According to the Gov, he had numerous clients who were made to believe that his steroids would cure their cancer. They paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars and some of them died. I just thought that was pure evil. You should have let the DUI guy walk and inform the officers most likely present in the courthouse of the situation. Let him turn on his car just to get pulled right back out and into handcuffs. We had a client try and enforce a post-employment restraint against a 19-year-old receptionist after she quit and started working for a competitor. The reason? He wanted to make her life hell because she wouldn't sleep with him, a creepy 57-year-old man. Him trying to sleep with her was the reason she quit. Unsurprisingly, he didn't take our advice to discontinue his claim, and so we ended up sending him elsewhere. See, this right here shows the one thing many different type of a-holes share. They don't know when to fucking stop. He could have been done for sexual harassment, and he got away with it. But he had to keep going, not once thinking he'd done something wrong. My general psychology professor worked for the state of Arkansas assessing criminals to see if they would qualify as criminally insane. He told us a story one time about a guy who would get glass shards and hide them underneath his skin, presumably to use at a more opportune time. He said his interview with the guy made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. She tried to sell her baby. I found out during a hearing, in front of the judge. The people who try to sell babies surprise me. The people who try to buy babies confound me. Had a divorced client, husband and father, who disowned his autistic son, tried to argue that he should get all of his wife's retirement having not worked for 12 years, contacted me during the height of Hurricane Sandy. He was in the Bronx and me in Manhattan, saying he wanted to hold his wife in contempt for not paying him that day while the storms slammed NYC. Told me I was making a huge mistake getting married. My wedding date was November 3rd, 4 days after Sandy, saying that I was going to be miserable and regret it. I could go on. But the worst was when, several months later, since his divorce was taking a long time, he sent death threat letters to myself and my wife saying that he had hired an executor to kill the two of us if his divorce wasn't finalized in 60 days. Called the police and they said he left his premises 1 day earlier. I heard nothing from him until February 2014 when he emailed me saying he needed a winter coat from his wife and could I help get it for him. Ironically, the divorce didn't have to be completed because he killed himself before the judge signed the judgment of divorce. I am a lawyer for people on death row. Although some of my clients have been convicted of horrible, sometimes nightmare-inducing crimes, I honestly have never had the thought, oh, this person is a monster. What I am far more likely to think is, 1. How do I convince my child to never try meth because meth psychosis is fucking real and horrifying? Or 2. I am so lucky to have been born into a family where my parents weren't violent, drug-addicted, mentally ill, all of the above. Or 3. Jesus Christ, how differently things may have turned out if my client had had access to mental health services on the outside. Or 4. Wow. This person who is completely dysfunctional on the outside has adapted really well to the structure that an institutional environment provides. Perhaps it's due to my own religious beliefs and to my analytical nature, but the idea that some people are just bad or monsters has never rung true to me, nor has it been borne out by my observed experience. Not a lawyer, but was a paralegal for many years. I worked mainly in family law, as I am sure other posters are doing in order to preserve confidentiality. I am going to be vague and also not include genders or locations. I had a client who was getting divorced. The client and soon-to-be ex-spouse had a 12-year-old son with autism. The two of them sat this poor fucking child down at the table one day and made him choose which parent he wanted to live with. Our client called me to gloat that the child had chosen in their favor and to direct that paperwork be prepared. This client was a prominent member of the business community and earned quite a high salary, and was treating this child like a commodity. I was disgusted. I no longer work in law, but this one will always stick with me. One of my close friends is a family lawyer and had a similar situation except in reverse. Both the client and the client's spouse, in front of a judge and in front of their autistic child, took turns arguing why they shouldn't have to have custody. Both of them claiming they're too busy, their ex is better suited to be a parent, the child clearly prefers the other one more, etc. That poor kid. My friend is getting divorced, and she asked me to go to her attorney appointment with her. The attorney told me that now they have specially trained lawyers who work with children to figure out what the children want. Rather than ask which parent they want to live with, they ask questions like, what kind of things do you do with your dad? Is he fun to be around? Do you like your bedroom at his place? They basically tease the information from the children, and then write a report that the judge and the case lawyers discuss in his chambers. Not the client but my managing partner. The client was a senile 90-year-old man. He wanted to sell land worth a little less than $1 billion to some businessmen. Suffice to say there were many who wanted to take advantage of the situation. One such person, to my dismay, was our managing partner. The partner wanted to insert a provision that would have effectively funneled about 60% of the proceeds solely to him. You could see how his eyes gleamed at the mere mention of money. The provision got lost in the revisions. I was doing the revisions. I'm no longer part of that scummy firm. A lot of years ago I used to work as a solicitor's representative. Cases go to Crown Court, barrister deals, and I am there for paperwork, additional stuff with client, etc. 70-something-year-old man had been in jail for 15 years for an assault on a child. Solicitor and barrister working on getting him released due to him getting clean reports from just about everyone. Guards took him out of jail to a dentist, and as he entered the waiting room he saw 2 children and ran straight at them. Guards stopped him. 3 weeks later at court I was the one that sat him down in a room to explain that no, this isn't a hearing to release you. It is so you can be committed to a mental health secure facility for the rest of your life. He didn't take that well. I shed no tears. Not a lawyer but my dad is. He has told me the story of why he stopped being a criminal defense lawyer. He got a case with a couple young Russian guys who were charged with securities fraud. My dad worked super hard on the case and got the guys a great deal with some probation, a fine, and some community service. That night the guys treated my dad to dinner, and on the TV in the bar was a news story about insurance fraud, and one of the guys said, "Hey guys, security fraud is old news, let's try that next," and pointed at the TV. That night my dad came home to my mom and said, "I can't do criminal defense anymore," because he realized the people he was defending were truly bad people. Oh man, I'm always late when I have a good one. Not a defendant, but a divorce. Client is a late 30s woman, 2 kids, idyllic suburban life with her, incredibly lucrative medical profession, husband. He caught her cheating. He wanted to patch things up. She decided on a divorce. So far, nothing out of the ordinary, unfortunately. Then I start getting the details. He caught her on his birthday, in their bed, while the kids were downstairs. Dude decided to come home early as a surprise, and his wife was getting dicked down by a 19-year-old. But wait, there's more. Really fun stuff from the husband. Guy had been treated for gonorrhea twice, and both times he had caught it from his wife. The second kid wasn't his. It was obvious because the child was 100% some race, and the dad was not that race. Bad stuff, right? Well, enter the texts, emails, etc. She was carrying on like a dozen affairs at any given time. Spanning years? She would bring them home and tell the kids they were electricians, plumbers, etc. She'd fuck other guys within minutes of dropping her kids off at school. I've met some awful people in my time, but this woman straight up told me how much this guy loved her and how she manipulated the shit out of him. He knew about a lot of the stuff, and each time he found something new, he just tried to win her back. I don't want to go into the details of what happened, but some money that you get you don't really want. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.